you with a gift. But God, if He demands you to obey Him and you disobey Him, He will even reject your gift. So obedience becomes better than sacrifice when God demands of it. There are some of you that purity is a demand from God. So if you lose it, even if you ask Him for forgiveness, forgive, but there are things He will give you again. There are some people that there are things that God wants to do with you, that He wants you to learn a pathway of obedience. So God will put you in the protocol of lack, not for anything, because He wants to test your own obedience. There are some people that giving may be particular to them. Other people can escape it. They will not be giving and they will prosper. To you, they will say, until you give, things won't happen. And no matter how much you try to excuse it by prayer, nothing will happen. So the more you pray, God will say, give that your friend that shirt. You pray, you are fasting, say, give that other person that shoe. There are other people that their own demand is fasting. Maybe you are about to write an exam, God say, go and start fasting. So the more you try to go this other way, it will return you back to that thing that you are running away. Because when God demands of obedience, is now better than sacrifice. It's not as if you can't excuse it with sacrifice, but because God is interested in you learning obedience, He will force you into that pathway. There are some people that, I'm telling you the sincere truth, they may never access the mercy of God like some of us, because God demands a certain level of obedience from them. An average believer, obedience is a challenge. When was the last time you obeyed God? You'll be shocked and surprised that almost all the things God tells you to do, you are not doing them. And yet again, you give excuse here and there. And you never knew that all those excuses you have given, you have procrastinated your way to the top. Except you do your best in keeping to that obedience, nothing may happen. I realize that the blessings of God meet you strategically at the point of obedience. I know people that God told them, live here, go here, meet this person. As you go there and meet the person, it's a breakthrough. You can be here in Shekinah and God will tell you, as you go back, send a text message to this person. As you do that, the person, I've been thinking about you. How are you doing? We are fine. Send me your account number. Just because you obeyed, you saw a result. There are many of us that don't know that our prosperity is tied to an obedience. When you pray in tongues, instructions come. When instruction comes, until you obey those instructions, you will never profit from it. God gave instruction. The prophet disobeyed. God gave instruction. The king disobeyed, and he was judged. Anytime God speaks and men disobey Him, look at what happened. When Adam and Eve were commanded by God, of all the trees in the garden you can eat except of this, the day you eat of this you will surely die. They went in disobedience. No matter how much God loved them, they did not escape the judgment of God. You see the point now? It is the same way that there are so many of us, that there are so many things that God intends to do with us, but because of our perpetual disobedience, we have reduced ourselves to a lower state where there will be a punishment. And that is why we always say, if the Bible said that even angels that left their first estate where God has put them, and because of disobedience, they have reduced themselves to a level to which God says He will put them before judgment, it then means that mankind cannot be pardoned just because of the eternal way that God loved mankind. I know God loves us unconditionally. I know that God loves us so much that it seems as if God cannot do without us. But I bring a good and a bad news. In the day when God wants to judge, see, His mercy is withdrawn. And that is the reason why anytime God demands for you to obey or you perish. There are many people that God tells them don't travel today. In their disobedience, they are speaking in tongues and traveling. They died on the road. I know people that the prophet came and warned them. Oh, young man, I saw in the spirit, the Lord said this and that. You came on your own. You decide the way you want to do, to cover with a sacrifice. What will happen? Sometimes you receive a commensurate judgment. Sometimes you are about to travel, you see in the spirit an accident. God is saying pray. You say no, you will go. By the mercy of God, you may go and come back, but you may come back with one leg. Many of us, when God demands that we be trained in the things of warfare, we refuse to be trained. Suddenly a harbinger of death came in a season, and now you are attacked, and suddenly you are silent. Obedience becomes better than sacrifice when God demands of it. In the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10 from 6, the Bible says, and having in the readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled or when it's complete. Only when your obedience is complete that you can be able to judge disobedience. We are living in a world now, people are talking against people, people are insulting people. If it is Jesus' day, he will write on the ground, whosoever that think is without a guilt should first cast the first stone. We are living in a world now where people that are all kinds of terrible people calling other people terrible. A pastor fighting another pastor, when you evaluate the life of the pastor, is the same bed of the same feathers. I know a pastor that say, me I bad, but this my friend, he bad past me. Is there need for you to utter such kind of a thing? The Bible says you can only judge disobedience when your obedience is complete. How many of us truly our obedience is complete? That means we don't even have the right to look at somebody and point and say you are wrong. It's true. Because anytime you start telling people that they are wrong, those spirits will come to try to change your obedience. And when they check, you too are not accurate. If strike, they will strike you. That's how people die untimely. Why? Because they consulted the spirit and they bring judgment upon people upon whom spirit are kept captive. And because they too are under Beelzebul, so he came for them. Why speak against my captives? And you too, you are brought down. You can only judge disobedience when your obedience is complete. And every day we are journeying in obedience to get to obey God. Ask yourself the sincere question: when was the last time God spoke to you? Did you obey what God told you to do? God told you to fast, did you do it? He told you to pray, did you do it? He told you to apologize to that your friend, did you do it? God told you to stop watching movie for this month, did you do it? God told you to stop watching pornography. God told you to stop masturbating, did you do it? When was the last time God gave you instruction and you do it? God said cook a food and share to all your roommates, did you do it? No. And now you come here and stand, body of Christ is failing, body of Christ. You are the number one part of the body of Christ that is failing. Everybody need to be able to walk towards the junction of obedience as much as possible. Everybody is bad in church. When we evaluate your own life, you are all worse than everybody you are calling everybody. So at the tail end, we all are guilty as much as possible. So all of us in humility must cry, oh God, show us mercy. It's a challenge of the believers. An average believer, I assure you, you may be obeying what I say you should do, but if I say obey God, it becomes a hard thing. How many people today obey what their pastor said? My pastor said this. My pastor said this. Good as your pastor said it, when will you say God said this? My pastor said I should do like this. I will never forget that time. We were going for a meeting. I dragged one guy, said let's go. He said his pastor said you should never go for a meeting. Your pastor said you should never go for a meeting. Your pastor. What if your pastor did not make heaven? So you tell Jesus that, Jesus, my pastor say I should not go to heaven. May your pastor not tell you forget about heaven. Because your pastor will tell you forget heaven.